Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, thank you so much for joining. This is going to be, in a way, it's kind of a redo of some previous webinars that we've done on administration. We've really kind of stuck to the tactical side of this, and we're going to take a little bit different approach with this particular training. Again, we're going to get through it in probably less than a half an hour, but it's sort of split up into two sections. One, I've got just a few slides that actually Paul has put together, and Paul is with us here on the webinar as well to make sure I'm in line here. But we're going to walk through these, just a few slides, and talk a little bit more strategically about this, and then I'm going to go into the tactical side of this and give you a demo of some of the things that you have the capability of doing from an administration perspective. So this is kind of where we want to start, and you notice that what we've got up here is roles and responsibilities, and this doesn't necessarily tie directly into user roles within the database. But what we've done over the last year and what we're going to continue to do over the next year is really focus in on adoption of TSANet within the support center. And what we found actually through the years, but especially through the research that we've done over the last couple of years, is there are some people that just TSANet pays back 5 times fold than what they pay for their membership dues. And then there's others that don't get the value out of their membership dollar, and that's what we want to try to solve. So where we realize this is not one member fits all, because there are different sizes of companies. We've got a range of members that are on this particular webinar that go all the way from very small companies all the way up to large multinational companies. And what we're going to try to do is show you what we've seen as far as adoption and how you can work with TSANet inside of your company to get the value out of it. And we start here by defining people within the support center and what we call, and they're key people within the organization. So we thought we'd kind of go through there, and then I'm going to relate this back to how it fits into the database on the tactical side, so you get an understanding of that. But we always define a business manager. And the one thing that's not up here, although it should be implied, that we always define a business manager, and if you're in an open group like basic or premium, that business manager carries the voting power for the company as well. But we look to that person to manage the TSANet relationship from a renewal perspective when time is coming up, but to kind of oversee the whole relationship structure and perhaps how TSANet may fit into even a bigger relationship structure that you might have within your company. In a smaller company, this may be the only person that is in charge of TSANet, although I will tell you, and even from an experience this morning, it sure is nice to have more than one contact. Because sometimes people leave and et cetera, you know what happens from that perspective. But this person is someone that looks at the relationship at a very strategic level, right? They maintain the overall structure of how the program is going to be developed and how it's going to be implemented. They may delegate this down to what we call program managers and key users. But again, they're the ones that should have at least a very high-level understanding of what TSANet is, how it can be used, and how it should be adopted within the support center. So they should understand that at least at a high level, what the usage is and what the features are. In most companies, you're also going to find that you want to define what a program manager is. And a program manager could be several roles within your company, but for the most part, they're going to be someone that is responsible for either a product set or a group of engineers, or it could be a partner program. And they need to understand TSANet from a tactical level of how it uses, how easy is it for you to establish a relationship with a new partner? How would you use custom groups? Understanding what that contact document is if there's someone that's if they're in the support department. And we will walk through a contact document because that is one of the really key areas. But you can define a program manager, and that person should be defined within the TSANet structure as someone a little bit more at a tactical level that understands the details of TSANet and how other members would engage, right? And all these people are going to have administration privileges into TSANet. We'll talk about that. The other one that we defined where you get into the larger companies is what we call a key user. And this is different from a caller that we define in the database, but a key user, as an example, would be an escalation manager. I think that'd be a really good definition of what we call a key user. They would be somebody that at a tactical level understands TSANet. They would understand how the support engineers would use TSANet, or perhaps they might even use TSANet themselves to engage other companies and turn it over to an engineer. But we expect them to keep that flag up as this is how you use TSANet, this is how you engage, and they may very well go back and provide feedback to the program manager, or likely to the business manager of, hey, we've got this other program, or this would be a good way that we could use TSANet. So their understanding of things like custom groups and case exchange and all these other things is also a very key aspect of this. So from your company's perspective, we want you to look at this and go, okay, I know I got a business manager, but maybe these are the people that I could set up as program managers or key users, and then we'll take it from there. And that's kind of a move into the next slide here. So as far as people getting access into TSANet, which is obviously a key, and the one thing we talked before on the other slide was about more of a management level. This is more, at least the first part of this, at a very tactical level, which is the engineers. How do they get access to TSANet? And they can get in. There's really three different ways. You can set them up individually with their own user ID and password. A lot of companies will use this group login feature, and you can see that we've got a link here to show you how that's used. I'm going to actually give you a little bit of a demo of how that's used, but essentially what you can do is get a URL and you can post it internally, and then that user comes in, gives their name and email address, and they're automatically put into the directory with the ability to engage and use other companies through the TSANet process. So it's a very easy way, and it also keeps you from having to administrate tons of different individual user IDs and passwords. So the group login feature is something that's well used, but it also needs to be managed as well, because you can do a lot of different things with this. If you wanted to, you could set up multiple group logins specifically for a particular product set, where they only see certain relationships, or they even only see certain companies. So you can set it up any way that you want to, but the group login feature is a very powerful way to do it. Then we've also got this self-registration process, which is something that's really very customizable to however you want to do it. We've got kind of the default set up to where it goes to specific individuals, and then they will go in and approve or deny access from an individual perspective into the database. But we do have that process, and what happens is you go into the login section, and it'll say request account, and what it'll set you up, goes through this process. The program manager or whoever is defined in there will actually get an email, and then the process can occur from that perspective. And we've also got from an administration perspective, you've got your key users, program managers, and business managers. They're going to need to have individual logins. And the reason for that is because at a caller level, they won't see this administration capability that I'm going to show you in a little bit. The administrators, they need to have this individual login in order to administrate the TSANet website. Okay, and again, all these links will provide, if you've signed up to this webinar, you're going to get this slide deck as well. So the contact document, and I'm going to talk about this a couple of different ways. One is to understand how important this is, right? This is the method, and it could be multiple methods, of how other companies are going to engage you. And I had another instance this morning of someone going, well, I don't really know how much I'm engaged through TSANet, and I looked at the contact document, and it had contact me at support@domain.com. Well, if you don't differentiate TSANet from other calls, you're not going to know the difference. So whatever you put in here, if you want to set out, I want to know what's going on with other TSANet members contacting me, then the process that you put in here should be something that lets you go back in at a later time and see how that is occurring. If you use case exchange, this is solved for you because we know it's coming in through TSANet. But if you're using another method, then if you want to differentiate TSANet calls from other calls, then a lot of companies will use TSANet@domain.com as an example. Or they'll set up another number, or they'll use a code, or whatever it happens to be. But the contact document is something that you need to look at, make sure it's up to date, because this is how other members are getting a hold of you and not only engaging you, but also escalating calls to you. And we'll go into this in the administration part of this, but it's basically set up into these three sections. And that is, before you call, here's the information that you need that other engineer or that other company to capture about your customer. And I will tell you from a best practices perspective, because we've always been talking about a relatively low volume of calls that come in for engagement from another company, try to streamline this as best you can. You don't want to have them going and doing a bunch of research before they can engage you. You want to try to streamline that as best you can. From a contact perspective, it's really great if you can provide at least two methods, but this is where you're saying, this is how I want to be engaged. This is the number I want you to call. Here's the secret code I want you to give, or this is the 800 number I want to use. And this also, if you're using case exchange, which is the ability for you to do this electronically, you would actually see case exchange coming up in one of these methods for contact. And then escalation is something that you want to put in there, that if that other process fails, this is a process or a person that you can get a hold of to escalate that call. Whether it be a process which is required if it's a premium TSANet for 24/7, because it requires a 24/7 escalation path, that or the basic TSANet, really what you want is whatever path you're giving another company to escalate a call to you, you want that person to know what TSANet is. Because the last thing you want to do is to list a person down there and the other company calls that person and says, I can't get a hold of your company, it's not working right, I keep on getting going into a loop or whatever, and the other person says, I have no idea what TSANet is. You don't want that to happen. So there's education that you can do, but escalate, that's what you want to put in the escalation process there. Okay, and again, we're gonna go in and I'm going to show you contact documents when we get there. Internal notes. This is an area that is, boy, some companies are really using this and using it very effectively. But I find for the most part, companies are not using internal notes. And I'll show you what this looks like at the tactical level. But in essence, what this is the ability for you to guide your support staff through an engagement and give them notes that only they will see. And there's several different places that you can use this. You can use it at different levels within the directory in the decision tree, which I'll show you as well. And I'll show you how to add internal notes. It's very easy. But examples of use of this could very well be when you go to collect this information about a member, this is what they're going to ask you to get. And this is maybe a key trigger for us to be able to work with this other company, ask them for this number. Or when you get that support engineer on the line, tell them this. Or only use this relationship when we're engaging on this particular product set. So all sorts of things. Again, the key to this is it's something that you can use internally. Only your people will see it, and it would help them guide through the process of engagement. And I'll show you how that works as well. Okay, the reporting is another area that we're going to go in, and I'll show you at least where this is at. I will give you a caveat right now. Reporting, unless you're on case exchange, is something that's always difficult to do from a TSANet perspective. And the example I gave you earlier, if you put out there an 800 number or you say support@domain.com, unless you differentiate that, they're not going to say, well, this was a TSANet call. So I can give you some reporting statistics, but I don't really know that that engineer is going to the TSANet directory, clicking on your page, unless they actually do that. They may very well write down a number or a code or whatever it is, and they may never go back to the TSANet site. So unless you're on Case Exchange, I can only give you what I see from the TSANet side. But what I can see is broken down into the calls that you've received and who from, the calls that you've made and who to, and if it's got multiple departments, it'll show you that level of detail. I can also show you, and this one is really key, I can show you who's using group logins or who is not from either an individual or a group login perspective using those group logins. And then I can also show you the document. So when was a contact document last reviewed? So that's a reporting statistic that we can give you. The other thing I should mention to you is I know that you're getting these emails that are coming out showing you your individual usage on the member insights. And that's an outreach program that we want to continue to do to show you the practicality and the use of TSANet. But we're using these statistics. So you know, the best we can do is say it looks like we did get a member company that came in, clicked on your contact document, so we assume that they contacted you. Okay, and again, using Case Exchange, then we know that the calls are coming in, but outside of that, it's pretty difficult for us to give you totally accurate reporting on TSANet, especially from a call perspective. This is the other thing that we've seen, and Paul and I have really been working on this over the last year, as well as Stephanie, and trying to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help you provide training for your teams. And we've got a lot of information out there on the member help area. We do these webinars, like we're recording this one as well. But there is a ton of resources out there, and we'll go to the extent of even co-branding and doing end-user training for you. So I really invite you to contact us let us help you. And I realize that this TSANet could be just a part of other training that you're doing. So we'll give you the tools that you can go out and talk about that with your support engineers, or make it part of the training program for new engineers coming on board, or we can do a total re-education process if you want us to do that, starting from scratch. If you don't think that there's enough people within your support center that know TSANet and you need help doing that, just give us a call. Let us work with you to make sure that happens. So let me go in now. I think this is my last slide. It is. I'm going to go into a little bit of a demonstration. Paul, I know you're on mute there. Was there anything on the slides that I missed that you wanted to mention?
No, I think you covered it perfectly. I think the only just point I'd reiterate is on that second slide where you noted the different roles that, you know, again, one size doesn't fit all. So if you feel that's a topic you want to discuss on more of kind of a member adoption thing, we're happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you as well to try to make sure you got the correct structure. Okay,
very good. So what I've done here is I've actually logged in as under this test case that we have a test company in there. And what I'm going to do is go in through this administration area. So if you are, and again, in the system, we've got defined business managers, program managers, and callers. Right? The difference between a business manager and a program manager, the only difference is that a business manager can create, edit, or delete program managers. That's the only difference between those two. So from an administration perspective, if you're a business or a program manager, you're going to see these up here, and you're going to have this admin capability. And I'm going to click in on this. I've only got just a few minutes left, but and the other thing I'll mention to you is we've got a lot of this stuff is on our member help section, and we've got short videos. We try to keep them really concise. Don't go into a lot of detail, so this is not like hour-long member help things, right? This is pretty easy stuff. But once I click on admin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see these things come up over here, and I'm also going to have this area right here. And I want to talk about this real quickly because this is that group login feature. And again, every business and program manager is going to have this when they click on admin. When I could call this whatever I want to, product A support group, or if it's one group if I'm going to use one login for every engineer in my company, it could just be support group, right? But if I take this URL and I paste it internally in my intranet, then whenever a member comes in, one of your engineers comes in, clicks on that link, what it's going to do is trigger off of your account and be able to ask for their name, their email address, and they'll be able to log into the system. So this is that group login feature. Very easy to use. Just click on admin and it's right there in front of you. Okay. Personal profile, company, I'll mention real quickly. Under that, you've got departments. Key codes is a different topic that we'll talk about, products and users. And I'll go into users, but I'll mention before that on the departments, you can create and edit, well, you can't create departments, but you can edit any department. So if you want to create new departments, such as for a new product type, or it could be for a new geo, whatever it is you want to do, we need to create as TSANet that department for you, and then you can go in and edit that. Okay. As far as products, getting products in, very easy to do. Again, we cover that in the member help section. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but I will click on users here just to give you an idea. So to add a new user, I just come down here and click on add new. All right, and it's pretty simple. I go in there and just put in their information, their email address. If I'm a business manager, I can assign them either a program manager level, or I could assign them a caller level. If I'm a program manager, I can assign a caller level. Okay, but you'll notice down here is also the registration queue. So if I am one of those people that gets an email, if they self-register, this is going to be where it show up, and this is where you can go in and accept or deny their application, and you'll also get emails on this as well. So pretty easy if you want to set up people individually into the system. Where I really want to concentrate here is on contact documents. And I'm going to go ahead, so if I had multiple contact documents, it's going to come up here, show me the name of that contact document, which is really, this is an internal thing. Tell me the department that that's associated with. I can come over here, click on edit and review. And you can see that it's going to come up and show me the different sections. And if I scroll down here, I see the entire contact document as other members would see it as well. So if you want to see how other companies are looking at you, this is the place to go. Don't go to yourself in the directory, because that view is always skewed because you're collaborating with yourself and the system gets confused about that. So if you want to see how other companies are seeing your contact document, you want to go in through the administration side, click on contact document, and it's going to show you here what it looks like. This is what other companies are seeing. If I need to edit that, I can do support hours. The supplies too, you don't need to worry about that. That's something that's on the TSANet side. If contact preparation requirements, that's what this is before you call. And if I were to look at that, what I'm going to see is just a series of checkboxes, or I can add additional stuff in here if I wanted to do that. If I want to look at contact information, again, I've got method to call. I've got 3 different ways to do that. And within those 3 different ways, I've got different ways that I can tell other members how I want to be engaged. And then down here is your escalation, simply just a free text area here. Again, as what I said earlier, you want to be as specific as you can. Make sure that if you're directing people from an escalation perspective, that those people know what TSANet is. Click on Save and Approve, and you're done. It's as simple as that for editing contact documents. Real quickly, just a couple of minutes left. I want to go back and show you internal notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to My TSANet. This is the My TSANet space. This is essentially just a shortcut to where you would direct an engineer. And if you're using a group login, if you used your group login people are going to see the same thing. So to add a company, I'll add Apple here. I can just go in here to Apple. if I add this to the dashboard, it's going to put it on my TSANet space, but here is that internal note. And I can just click on this and do add text and write whatever I wanted to put in here, a special note that only my engineers would see. So this can be a very useful feature about that every program manager and every business manager can go in and add an internal note or even add a file and it's specific to this company. And if you go down the decision tree where you might have multiple departments, you can add an internal note there, or you can go all the way down like we did here to the contact document level, and you can add an internal note and it'll show up. And you just simply save it. Okay. I think since we're really running out of time and I wanted to keep this below a half hour, again, I would go back over here on this member help section. Whoops, sorry. And there's a lot of information here through this company admin, how to use the portal. Again, I'll emphasize and go back and say, if you want help on the adoption piece of TSANet, let us help you. That's what you pay us to do. That's what your membership dollars are all about, is to let us help you get the maximum benefit out of TSANet that you can. Paul, I'm showing I got just 1 minute left. Is there anything that you want to add? And if anybody's got any questions, please go ahead and fire them in.
No, I think you covered it well. Let's see if anybody has questions, but I would just reiterate that contacting us and we can put together a pretty specific adoption program that really works for you and make sure that this is something that we help you through. So.
And we don't care. I mean, again, there's a big group of people that are on this call that represent large companies all the way down to small companies. We don't care. If you got 3 people in your support center, we'll create an adoption program for you.
Yeah. I think the other thing, maybe just kind of close on, we've been sending out that monthly Insights and Actions email, and that does contain some information about usage and things out of that reporting section, little tips and stuff to get the most out of this. So definitely take a look at those when they come in each month as well. Sometimes that has some great information.
Yep. And I got one quick question here that came in, which was about the document that they're showing through that reporting section. They're seeing that many are hundreds of days old. And that's because nobody's gone in. If they did, all you got to do to reset that should be that you go in, look at that document. You don't even have to edit it, just save it, and that should reset the timer on that. So yeah, it is critical that we look at those. That's the key thing about how companies are, how other companies are viewing you. And if you need help with that, we'd be more than happy to walk through that as well. Okay, it looks like we're going to run over our time here, and I didn't want to do that, but I appreciate everybody that joined in today, and again, hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot for coming in today. Bye-bye.